printing wet process machine was only selling at $300. So he had taken the entire, almost all the business, corporate, everybody went for Xerox, and they said that okay, he is giving everything free of cost to me almost, because at best I am going to make only 100 copies. On the second or third month, they found that their copying was something like 2,000 per day. So the business model actually captured the value of their dry process, high quality instant copies. At the time, if you have to take from a file a photocopy, it would have been a real big problem. Or from a media other than paper, if they have to take it, it was a big problem in a wet machine. You have to first take a photo of that. So everything was overcome, and it gave an absolutely marvelous output. As I said, that cognitive bias came into Xerox, because Xerox later on did not alter this business model for most of their offerings, including when they went into network printers, etc., etc. Even today, Xerox employs quite a few people on site in US and even other countries where they have a collaboration. Xerox man sits in the corporate and giving all this service, which was started in 1958. Whether it is really now necessary or whether they can change, they have not addressed that issue even today, because that becomes a dominant logic of that business. No one wants to alter the business model. Basically, these are all the issues. So PARC scientists, as I said, initially had posed this question, so many of them started leaving the company because of their proprietary technologies and system-only marketing, etc. And they have gone and then made a spin-off from this PARC. Next. This is one of the spin-off companies. It's a 3M. 3M Smitterling product is now IEEE 802 standard. And for this, MetLife licensed this technology from Xerox for only $1,000. And you will see that he hit the IPO in 1984. The market cap of 3Com was 30% more than Xerox in that particular year. And he had altered the way Xerox was doing their business. Basically, he had taken partner networks in a very, very serious fashion. He started using the resellers for doing it. Those services were not given by 3Com. 3Com used to make the network hardware, then it is basically done through any normal distribution cycle. Their core capability has been making these protocol competent R&D, brand management, and knowledge management. And they have taken partners for going ahead. This is about Adobe. Adobe also again another PARC invention, which basically evolved from the PostScript. PostScript, it was from the proprietary Interpress, which was the language used by Xerox for taking even the Xerox. So from there, this font and other libraries are built. What you see, what you get, that kind of desktop publishing. And Adobe again went into IPO in 1987 and had a market cap 20% higher than Xerox. So they have also deviated largely from the Xerox model and found out there is a different way of doing things. Next, please. So if you have a good business model, is it going to be a great success? As I said, success actually depends on more on luck rather than on your business model and things like that. But business model is very important in the sense that it's one of the necessary condition for your business to succeed. May not be the sufficient condition. Next. So that brings me to the end of the talk. If you have any questions, please.
So how to generate a new model? There are so many models.
Yeah, as I said, you first look at what is the requirement that you are going to fulfill. You have an idea. Okay. Now this idea is what? It's a very raw idea that you have. And this idea is going to fulfill somebody's need. Okay. What is that need and how much he is spending in fulfilling that need right now? So you look at that part of the situation and then look at, see, this is costing at least this much money to do that. And if that amount is X, is your idea by using this method capable of giving you a value? You are going to deliver the value what the customer expects, but at a cost which is less than X. If it is 0.1x, you have a great business. If it is 0.9x, then you will have to work on your idea and the partner setup so that you bring down to 0.4 or 0.3, so that it makes a business sense for you as well as for the buyer. You see, in the today's connected world, you can always find whatever deficiency you think you have. It is very easy to find competent partners who can fill up that requirement. So that is not a very major issue. The issue is, as I said, you have to take the first step. Then there are many people to join you. If you don't take the first step, not many people are going to be enthused. And as I said, even at best if the venture fails, what's going to happen? World is not going to end. So you have to take that into picture. Whenever you are starting, whatever you are going to invest, you put a stop loss. You have taken 1 lakh rupees, you say that okay, 1 lakh I am willing to write off. Beyond 1 lakh I will not do, right? So if you take that kind of a stand and strictly follow, you are unlikely to fail. Yes, please.
Just add on that, means if you don't take the venture capitalist in the picture,
Yeah.
then if we lose the business, then in that case everything will be on us, the finance and everything.
You see, in most of the businesses now, that is, unless it is, the brick and mortar, what we call, is something which generally people are starting on the internet. Why? Because internet is inherently capable of scaling up very fast. Companies like Pinterest, which started, had immediate customer rolling into their website by say something like 1 million, 2 million, like that, monthly enrollment of customers into websites. So basically now most of the new businesses which are started, whether abroad or even in India, venture capitalists generally favor internet-based businesses because they are capable of scaling up very fast. Once you explain and your customers are willing to buy into your product or service quickly. And once that happens in one geography, it can be easily ported to other geographies. So internet companies are very quickly scaling up. But if you take a brick and mortar kind of a setup, then yes, your investment, whatever you are putting, etc., you will have to look at and see how fast it will pay off and things like that. That may be a slightly difficult proposition. But again, there are quite a lot of people who have come from technology side into click and mortar, from a brick and mortar business. Quite a lot of them have come into that, because once you have a business like that, you can actually leverage the assets whatever you have created over a long period of time. See, if you take companies like Reliance Industries, for instance, they started somewhere in 1970s. No one would have expected them to be a company like this. It was basically a textile business. People thought that textile is dead, right? Textile at the time, I don't know, many of you may not know actually, Data Saman and things like that created such a problem in Bombay. More than something like 1,000 companies in Bombay closed their shop. Simply closed because of union trouble. And Reliance entered into the picture, and then you see the way that they have backward and forward integrated the company into a huge enterprise. So even a normal business, what you think is a dead business, can be a good business if you really have a good business logic. Yes, please.
The concept I'm going to ask might be a bit off the topic. It's basically, we are students from ISC, so most of us are having good offers after we leave from ISC. So when it is the right time, so when can I say that I should leave the job and go for a business, or that's I think big element because many of ISCs I got good ideas doing the research and all those things which can be put up.
Yeah, this is a question I was expecting actually. I came here mainly because once you are in a place like this, you are trained to read research journals, look for new ideas and leverage on those ideas, right? So here also the problem is more or less same. If you are having a knowledge of how to learn new things and deploy, that is a great asset to you. See, I studied here and I was in fact going towards registering and getting into PhD in aerospace, right? Then at that point in time itself, I felt that I wanted to do something for me. And fortunately or unfortunately, things did not click the way that I wanted. Luck plays a very great part in certain things. Even that is why, even after retiring from an active service, I decided I will start this company. Why should I? Because that spark that you want to start and do something for yourself is something quite basic. If it is there, you can do it whether you do it now or maybe 10 years later. It doesn't matter. But if you don't have that spark, then possibly this talk is totally wasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are these business models are static or dynamic? Because it should be dynamic. If my model is working for 20 years, I don't want to change completely. Few changes will be okay. So are these models dynamic?
Generally, if you ask me this question in any business, these models are static. They are never dynamic. This is what people call as a dominant logic of doing the business. If I have done a business in one way and succeeded in making money, they are unlikely to change the model. That's why I cited the example of Nokia, cited the example of Kodak. They didn't change the model because If you had, they were a dominant player in the normal telephones, mobile phone. They didn't want to get into the smartphone market itself because it would have changed the way that they were making the phone in too many different ways. They have to look for different partners, different network, different software. So they decided, no, why should I do all, take all that trouble? I'm doing fine. So-
Samsung did, right? Samsung did for lower price to higher price mobiles. So
Samsung is a slightly different story. Samsung story is slightly different. I can take it up on a different talk. They have actually adopted, they have taken a professor from INSEAD France who actually work on what is known as value innovation process. I mean, I also do consultancy in that, so it's a completely different way of looking at things. And Samsung otherwise was about to be written off because during the 1998 currency crisis, they were about to be sold off by the government of Korea. They said that your company will have to be split and sold off. And in just about 12 years, they are number 2 to Apple. And they have changed all these things by entering into a completely different process. You see here, even in this format, I have taken the slide, you see the framework is start at the bottom. It's a step-by-step process. Success doesn't come just by itself. So you have a number of steps to cross. So each step you learn, right? The same way, Samsung and all had actually relearned the entire way of doing business. And they have completely changed the business model. They have to. See, companies change the business models when they are totally, under complete duress. There is no other way they can survive. That is the time they change. Otherwise, they don't go and then fiddle with that business model. So it's generally not very dynamic. It's very static. Because you see, most of the time the directors who are the top bosses, their pay, their stock options, everything is tied to the quarter-on-quarter earnings. And if they miss, they are going to miss all those things. So there is a huge, pressure to hold on to the model that is working. Why do you change? That is what I call as cognitive bias. It is an inertia which doesn't allow you to change much. Yes, please.
I think there is a program in management studies on norms.
Yeah, I think we have taken quite a lot of time.
If they have other questions, they can ask.
Yeah, you can put it in the mail, we will answer.
So that business model canvas, where will you find that?
Yeah, you can get that in the businessmodelgeneration.com. It's a PDF, so it has all these questions, etc. How do you really answer? You may have to collect answers for it. Yes. So if there are no questions,
Yeah, we'll thank the speaker.
so
On behalf of the Student Council, I would like to thank Mr. Venkataman
thank
for
you.
giving very excellent talk and very informative. I hope that everybody got the idea about the business model. So I request Mr. Amogha to welcome the presentation. Okay.
One last thing was there regarding the feedback. Thank you.
I would like to make a note that if you are part of Knowledge Exchange program, it's an online portal provided by SEA. You can be part, and we will have a roundtable discussion, that is group discussion with Mr. Venkataman, so that we can all ask your question and continue our discussion further, because it's a very short time what we had now. Later we can still continue with the discussion there.
Yeah, sure.
And you may also feel free to give your feedback.
Thank you. So we thank Public Relation Officer for providing us with the opportunity, and of course the audience for coming here.
This will take more than 5 minutes for you to fill up. I will other. Just a few questions.